So, hello everyone, and welcome back to STW Sports. I'm host Samuel Wright, joined by Leeds United fan Rob Pretty, and we're going to go over the footballing weekend review. And we're going to start with the Premier League game, 12:30 on Saturday afternoon, Leicester City versus Chelsea. A 3-0 win for Chelsea, who remain top of the Premier League. Rob, this is a pretty convincing win in the end for Thomas Tuchel's side.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, by the way, as well. The Chelsea show why arguably some people would say City are leading the race and maybe Liverpool, but Chelsea just look the most solid of teams home and away. They're not slipping up at the moment, and Leicester, even though they haven't been at the heights that they've been in the previous seasons, they showed why Chelsea just got the job done. Nobody really likes the early kick-off, but it was a solid 3-0 performance, and players like James and stuff just carried on from where they were before the international break.
Yeah, very impressive from them. In terms of Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, of course, like you said, the start of the season hasn't really been that great compared to the last couple. Actually, a few Leicester fans actually saying Brendan Rodgers could be in a bit of trouble. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's a little bit harsh this early on to say?
It's maybe harsh because of what he's achieved since, because they weren't really, since they won the Premier League, they weren't really going anywhere. Was it under Klopp after? They weren't really going anywhere. And then he's come in and he's changed it around a bit. And then obviously with the FA Cup victory, FA Cup champions last year, and the qualifying, just missing out on Champions League, but qualifying for the Europa League. I think that's, from my personal opinion, that's what's taken the hit on him. Because when I was at Ellen Road before the international break against them, it was a Sunday kickoff because they've been in Europe on the Thursday, and you could tell like they started like a fanatic 5 minutes, and as a fan you sort of went, you're in a game here, because when, as a Leeds fan, when a team can match you, and that makes for a better prospect. But it was just hell for leather for the first 5 minutes, and you could have said, they look sort of back to themselves. But then as the game went on, they strawed that one draw with Harvey Barnes, but they just seemed to tire even more. And I think, maybe he's under pressure, but I think they'll stick with him for now.
Yep, and then we move on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Newcastle United 3, Brentford 3. Two teams who were very much out of form, in truth, going into this game. Newcastle not won a game all season. Brentford, after a fast start, have certainly slowed down. A very entertaining game, 3-3 draw. Obviously, it was meant to be Eddie Howe's first game in charge, but obviously he was not there due to COVID. So disappointing from Newcastle's point of view. But what was your take on this game?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. When I see Newcastle as a neutral, it's one of those where you think, I don't know really what I'm going to talk about when it comes to them. But like I say, for the neutrals, it kept us happy. Some of the draws were poor, sloppy keeping from, I believe it was Darlow in net for Ivan Toney's draw. And obviously it was a great start for Eddie Howe's reign with Lascelles scoring a header, and it had the atmosphere. Looking back on the highlights, it had the atmosphere of they knew there was they knew it was the start of a new era. After with the Tottenham game, they started on the front foot, and it's not what you've really been used to seeing Newcastle for under Steve Bruce, maybe a bit under Rafa, but for all my lifetime, Newcastle have never really been as big as everyone's made out. So, I think for, like I say, for a neutral, it was a good game.
Yeah, as for Eddie Howe being the new Newcastle manager, do you think that's a good appointment for them, and do you think he can take the club forward?
I think it's good because, you're not gonna. You can have all the money in the world, but you can't just drag the best manager in the world, or who people deceive as the best managers, and say, we've got all this money for you to spend, but you don't have to do it from, I believe, the bottom of the Premier League now. It doesn't really appeal to anyone. So you've got to. I think it's good that they've started with someone without discrediting Eddie Howe. He knows what he's doing at the bottom end of the table, and he didn't. Well, I suppose he did have the cash at Bournemouth, but you'd believe over a long sustained period of time, he'd get that chance at Newcastle as well. and he could build up to the heights that everyone's expecting Newcastle to go to since his takeover. So, and he don't play a bad style of football. I'm a bit biased when it comes to managers now, because I look at a manager's style of football and I compare it to Bielsa's, and I'm like, as a fan, it doesn't interest me. I'll be honest, watching most games now, apart from this season, we haven't played very well, but the past 2 or 3 seasons, neutral games have been pretty stale and boring to me. But I can see as a Newcastle fan why, with the takeover and Eddie Howe, why there'd be optimism despite where they are in the table.
Yep, and the next game was another 3-3 draw between Burnley and Crystal Palace. I don't think many people would have had this down as a 3-3 at the start of the weekend, but that's what it was. All 6 goals were scored in the first 49 minutes as well, so a very entertaining game. Burnley have certainly improved recently, and Palace are having a good season under Patrick Vieira. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, again, I think I said it about one of the previous games. It's one of those that you look, and Burnley Palace, as a traditionalist, when Leeds went in the Premier League, I'd be like, Leeds should be in the Premier League in place of one of them. Nottingham Forest should be, a few other teams like that, Sheffield Wednesday maybe, and it'd feel like a bigger game. But this, sometimes they either create a stale game, Burnley Palace, them sort of games, or they create an exciting one, and that's what they did. And I think with the signing of Cornet, Burnley, they've added a bit of, it's not hard to add flair to their side, because they are pretty one-dimensional Brexit football the way that they play. But obviously, he was the one that clinched the point for him. But they know what they're good at, Burnley. The first 2 goals, from memory, when I saw the highlights, were very typical Burnley goals. I think Ben Mee with a header, and then Chris Wood with a header from from someone else heading it to him. But then on Palace's hand, Conor Gallagher, every game that goes by that I see him, I think I wish Leeds could have pushed a bit harder to get him when we were linked in the summer, because at the time in the summer I wasn't that fussed if we got him or if we didn't get him. But I can see why he stayed there for like family reasons in London and stuff. But he's continuing his form after his deserved England call up, and then Christian Benteke as well. Like you could watch like 20 games a season with Benteke and probably maybe see 1 goal. He's not really been at the heights he was when he were at Villa, but he's slowly getting a bit of form back, and a double on Saturday was what he needed.
Yep, and as for Crystal Palace under Patrick Vieira, 2 defeats all season, and they've actually been against Chelsea and Liverpool. They've had a very good start, Palace, under Vieira. Do you think that changing from Roy Hodgson to Vieira was a big risk, obviously, but do you think it's paying off for Palace so far and they're a bit more exciting to watch?
Yeah, I think risk is a good way of describing it, because you could, from an owner's point of view, you could look at it like Roy Hodgson or someone of that like build is going to get you Premier League football. They won't get you Champions League. They won't get you probably even top 10, but they will get you your Premiership money at the end of every season for keeping you up. So you could go down that route, but they've finally spiced it up and gone with Vieira, a completely different route, and it's paying off so far. I didn't really have an opinion when they first appointed him. I still looked at it like, from a Leeds point of view, I thought we could still do better than them, but obviously they've started well. And even now, in the next few games, as a Leeds fan, looking ahead, I think we've got Palace coming up some point in the next few games. We've got them, Brentford, and then Villa at the end of the month. Even with the new managers that they've got, I still look at them and think they're the games you've got to be winning. So they have improved, and they do look a good outfit this season. So yeah, I think the change is paying off so far.
Yep, and now we move on to Aston Villa 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. What a win this was for Villa. Steven Gerrard wins his first game in charge of Villa as well. Again, what did you make of this one, and what do you make of the Steven Gerrard appointment?
Yeah, it's the old new manager bounce, isn't it? I could see why he'd stay at Rangers. What he was doing is probably going to go on and win the league, and he was highly thought of up there. But the chance of Premier League, to be a Premier League manager. It's hard for someone that had such a amazing career built in the Premier League. It probably was hard to turn it down, and it'll be. He's not saying it, but he's got to be thinking it down the line. Do this job well at Villa, and when Klopp decides to leave or whatever happens at Liverpool, he's probably the next one in line, you'd imagine, unless I went for a completely different route. So on the side of the appointment, yeah, I think it could work out. They've got the squad. I was never that keen on Dean Smith because, again, from my Leeds point of view, that it was some of the stuff he said, some of the way and the dealings we had with Aston Villa. I just didn't think, and he was getting put in the same bracket as Bielsa. I was like, I don't think you're really at that level. But I thought the squad they had, even now without Grealish, it's still not that bad. So if Gerrard can do something with that, but on the game itself, from the highlights, I didn't see the game live, but Brighton started well, to be fair, and that can sometimes happen. Like in the Leeds game, I'll get onto it later. Conte's first home game, we were all over him for the first half, and there was some boos at the end of the half, and that's with a new manager. So Brighton come out the traps. They had a few chances, should have done better. Big save from Martinez in the first half, and then clever play from Watkins for his goal, and then he just used the two defenders just to whip it round him as a block and just put it in the top corner, and yeah, fair play to him. Hopefully it works out for Gerrard.
Yep, the next game we're going to speak about, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, West Ham United 0. Big win this for Wolves, really. I think Bruno Lager, if anything's done a very underrated job so far. Not really been mentioned as doing a good job, but he is doing well so far. Raul Jimenez on the score sheet as well. Obviously, suffered that terrible head injury just under a year ago against Arsenal. Good to see him back and scoring. A big win this for Wolves, but a big dent for West Ham, of course, who are trying to challenge for the top four this season.
Yeah, Wolves are looking more back to the form they were in Nuno's first season in the Premier League. Like you say, with players like Jimenez coming back, any team that loses a focal number 9, you're gonna suffer. And obviously, the style of the injury wasn't nice either. It won't have been pleasant for the players to be around. So to have him back does just like give them an extra 5-10% every game. And West Ham aren't an easy side. I rate West Ham very highly, and I was surprised. I didn't think this West Ham side had that off day in them very often. And obviously, I thought Rice was missing at first because he was missing for England, but then I was watching the highlights and he was actually playing, but he didn't look, from what I've seen, he didn't look his usual energetic self. I think for the goal or something, he just lets Jimenez walk past him or something like that. So yeah, it's probably just an off day for West Ham. I don't think they just went up to the usual standards, but tidy finish for the goal for Jimenez and with 3 points. I don't know what Wolves can do this season really, because when they came to Ellen Road, it was one of those that I looked at. I thought we should be getting 3 points at home, but then they weren't pretty. Don't get me wrong, but they did the job, and we snuck a late equaliser against them. But I walked out there thinking that's more like the Wolves that they were, and they could be a threat this season.
Yeah, as for West Ham, a big question really is obviously they currently do sit in the top 4. Can they aim there under David Moyes, in your opinion, or do you think that maybe just outside the top 4 is more realistic?
I always say it with, I think when teams end up in the Europa League, like Leicester have, it's hampered them. It could hamper West Ham, but it hasn't so far. Obviously, the game they lost at the weekend, that had nothing to do with playing in Europe. If anything, it was probably to do with the international break. But if they can get the balance right between playing Thursday, Sundays and stuff like that, I don't see why they can't, because David Moyes is doing a good job. And the thing I like about West Ham, they're not boring, but they're just balanced. You know what you're getting in midfield, you know what you're getting in attack. You're getting some big buggers at the back that are going to keep it out, and you've got a solid keeper in Fabianski, who's still going on strong. So I've got a bit of a soft spot for him, so I don't mind him. I think they could. I'd like to see him sneak into the top 4, change it up a bit. Hopefully, push Man U out of it. That'd be funny. But yeah, I think it's just bad day at the office on Saturday. I think they'll be back in the next game, and they'll solidify a top 4 spot this season for me.
Yep, and the next game we're going to mention, Norwich City 2, Southampton 1. Dean Smith wins his first game in charge of Norwich. Big win for them. Norwich all of a sudden could be mounting a little bit of a, they're only 3 points out of safety at the moment, believe it or not, as well. So, as for Norwich, do you think this could be this? Well, they're doing this back-to-back wins now. Do you think they can do it, or do you think that this win is just a bit of a new manager bounce for Smith?
Well, I think it's a positive win for him. I did see it, and the result come through, and I was a bit like, oh, that affects Leeds big time. That them winning 2 games, I didn't think the win back to back. I mean, I know it's Southampton and Brentford, so they are the sort of games they target. But I didn't. It did knock me for 6 a bit, thinking they could get a bit of a run going here. And yeah, the new manager bounce, it seems to help every team. But the one before the international break with Daniel Farker in charge. So yeah, I think I look at the Championship and compare it to Derby. They've got a lot easier job to get out of the mess that they're in compared to Derby. So yeah, I don't see why they just need to I think that they'll be the sort of team that's in the bottom 3 that will target, be strategic with it and target games. So against your Leeds and against teams like that where they think we should be getting 3 points at home, especially at home. And yeah, as for the game itself, it probably didn't go to plan like the Aston Villa game. I was saying that Brighton started well in that, and Southampton did the same this year. And the difference is Southampton scored early on with Che Adams, and then it was just Norwich, from what I saw, weren't not amazing, because the first goal, Pukki, was a soft header. Keeper should have done better, and then Hanley, so the winner, was a soft header as well. I don't know what Alex McCarthy were doing for either of them, to be honest. He'd probably been watching Tim Krul too much with the saves from the other week, but a win's a win. You take it when you're down there. So yeah, it did knock me back a bit, seeing Norwich slowly gathering a bit of momentum, which is worrying.
Yep, another team who got promoted last season, who are gathering some momentum now, is Watford. They beat Manchester United 4-1. But the big talking point from this game was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has, of course, been sacked as manager of Manchester United after nearly 3 years in charge. What's your take on this in general? I mean, to lose 4-1 was extremely embarrassing. Do you think the sacking's deserved?
The sacking was the result was funny. Them having to sack a manager's funny. All of it's just funny. You'd rather laugh at it. The situation that they're in, it probably was deserved. Yeah, they could have done it. Was it after Liverpool for me, maybe, and after City? Because as much as it's Man City and Liverpool you're playing, if you're Man United like that, you've got to still compete, and they just got steamrolled by them both. So it was lucky to survive an extra 2 weeks in the job, actually, in my opinion. And Watford, from what I've seen, yeah, they weren't that good. I think the controversy took over. So with the spot kick having to be retaken, the red cards and stuff, I think that just got into the heads more of Man United, and they just lost the plot basically, and everyone was there to watch on and laugh at them. But yeah, you shouldn't be it's not just, you can't justify losing losing in general to Watford if you're spending all that money and trying to make out like you're a big club and going for the title. So yeah, the writing was on the wall for Ollie before the international break, in my opinion.
As for Watford, of course, they are right now one of Leeds' relegation rivals, I guess. Been a bit of a weird one under Ranieri so far. Their 2 wins have been 5-2 against Everton and 4-1 against Manchester United. They've not scored in any of the other games, actually, and they've been beaten in all of them. So do you see Watford as a main relegation rival, and do you think they will stay up under Ranieri?
Well, from when I saw them live, they're a different kettle of fish, really, because Ranieri's got that little bit of magic in him. Whether he's got it in a relegation battle, I don't know, because I don't believe he was in charge at Leicester to get them out of it. It was Nigel Pearson who did that. It was Ranieri who took them to the next level to go on the title charge, which is mad, looking back. But yeah, I don't know. I think Watford's one of those teams I look at. Watford, I still look at Brentford because even like you said, they started well, but they haven't exactly been hitting the heights everyone was making out they was going to. But yeah, from what I saw of them under the previous manager, I couldn't tell you his name. They didn't look anything. They didn't look anything amazing. So yeah, I would target 3 points at Vicarage Road next time we come round to play them.
Yep. Now we move into the late kickoff on Saturday. Liverpool 4, Arsenal 0. The perfect response from Liverpool, ready to their 3-2 defeat to West Ham before the international break. As for Arsenal, they have been on a good run of form recently, but it's unfortunately it was same old story for that at Anfield, completely getting blown away. And yeah, Liverpool looking very impressive. It's got to be said.
Yeah, Arsenal started well, to be fair, against Liverpool. It had the feeling of a half-5 game where there were two teams in good form, and it felt like the sort of old days that older Premier League fans will know what I mean by this. It was a night game at Anfield between Liverpool and Arsenal. I instantly thought of like Andre Arshavin. I thought it'd be an end-to-end 4-4 sort of game. Because I thought both at the moment can score plenty of goals. We've seen that, and Arsenal started well. It was just, and I think they said it on commentary. I'd literally just said it to my friend a couple of minutes before. They said that Arteta rifling up the crowd by getting angry at Klopp on the sideline. That you can't do that at Anfield because as soon as you get the Anfield on the player's side rather than. Because it can be one of those places where there's a few murmurs if there's a misplaced pass or if they're not 4-0 up within 20 minutes and they can get a bit disgruntled. But as soon as he started kicking off with Klopp on the sideline, the whole crowd and the whole atmosphere just changed. And I think they said as well, and I completely agree, if a player does that and he loses his head in a tackle or he just does something idiotic on the pitch to get the crowd rifled up, he's getting subbed off at half time or he's having a word at half time with him. Nobody will have said anything to Arteta, but that changed the game. And then I've watched the game, and I said it at the time. I don't know why Arsenal's line was so high for Sadio Mane's goal for the first goal. I don't completely understand the reason behind the high line. I get it to give the keeper a bit of time, but they were far too high. And then Jota's goal, cool, calm, and collected. Lovely double sent Ramsdale to Goodison Park with that effort and the subs again. I think I'll get onto it. The Leeds game, they changed it. They just killed the game. Henderson setting it up. Can't remember which role they set up, and then Minamino at the back post to tap it in. Yeah, overall by the end of the game, it was actually quite a comfortable performance comfortable game for Liverpool. It just the crowd. I think the crowd changed it. It's like last season, they don't probably. I mean, they might do, but it's a completely different ball game. What I'm saying is, it's a different ball game in front of an empty crowd at Anfield that game because Arteta doesn't have anyone to rifle up then, and Liverpool deserved all 3 points in the end.
Yep, now we move on to Sunday, starting with the earlier game, Man City 3, Everton 0. Convincing performance this from Man City. You look back to their best here, but the big talking point, what a goal from Rodri Hernandez it was, the second of the game. A really good strike. And correct, fair play Man City, a comfortable win, but Everton didn't really turn up in this game.
Yeah, I can't believe they didn't score sooner, to be honest, Man City. Like I said, it was just dominant. It was one of those where Man City just don't let you out of your own half, and they was shifting the play. And then that ball, and you said about the Rodgers goal, the ball from Cancelo, we've seen it plenty of times, but that's probably the best assist he'll ever make, if not, well, he's ever made so far. And Sterling, to be fair, it wasn't an easy finish, but that first goal was just unbelievable. And then, like you said, the Rodgers screamer, game by game, especially this season, he's starting to be more of a big game player, and he's looking more closer to what they thought they was getting when, because it was obvious they needed a replacement for Fernandinho because he can't do this forever, and he's just chipping in every now and again with little cameo appearances, and that's fine. But Rodgers in the past 12 to 18 months has slowly slowly dropped there, and he's looking like literally like his twin. He's literally doing the same stuff, and obviously that finishes. We've seen Fernandinho do them finishes, and what a strike it was. Pickford were never saving that, but yeah, City too good. Everton just looked the usual flat self. Like they started the season well with Demarai Gray. I remember when we drew to him at Ellen Road, it was like that was a good game, that, and Demarai Gray were one of those. But yeah, they've just gone, like they started last season well as well, didn't they? They thought they were winning the league, and they've just gone back into the shell a bit. So yeah, things to work on for them, but no complaints from Man City's point of view.
Yep, now we're going to move into the final game of the weekend, and one you'll be eager to talk about. Game of two halves it was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham Hotspur 2, Leeds United 1 the final score. When you saw the lineup there, Rob, I don't imagine you were filled with much confidence, as most Leeds fans were, missing Rafinha and Rodrigo. Talk us through the game, though. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, you're spot on there. It's not even just missing Rodrigo and Rafinha. It's looking at the bench. It was sad seeing that. I mean, I love Gellert, and I think he's going to be amazing and stuff, but it was quite sad that we had to rely on him to literally. He replaced Rafinha to be the bright spark, and he did well. Like I said, for the first half, he did well. But it was the bench that concerned me. All the youngsters that we had, it was literally like watching an under-23s match, which a lot of Leeds fans do because it's entertaining. It was under-23s match at Tottenham Hotspur, that bench literally, and you're not filled with confidence when you go 2-1 down. When you go 2-1 down, and you look and you're like, who's coming on? Oh, Tyler Roberts, McKinstry. McKinstry's making his Premier League debut, for God's sake. You know, he's not gonna make an impact at 2-1. I mean, it's not Bielsa's fault. Well, he likes a thin squad, doesn't he? And with his demanding like work, training and stuff like that, it will have its impact. And we've got used to it, to be honest, as frustrating as it is. But yeah, you're right. There was the lack of optimism when I saw that lineup. But then I just remember thinking 25 minutes in, no, I don't think many, if any, other managers could do or just play against a so-called Super League Big Six team with such a. Because even the first teamers that we had out, like players like Cooper and Jack Harrison and stuff, and the ones that like you see as like the first teamers now, even they're not that good a player really. The ban average Championship before Bielsa came in, so we hadn't signed players for millions and millions of pounds. They're all out injured. So yeah, I just remember thinking, what a first half, and that I love Strawing just before half time because I think it can change a game. But Conte is a good manager, and obviously it probably had the opposite effect. Whereas, like you wanted them to have a game plan going into half time, and then they changed it, and Conte came out and said, "Do this," and they just took control of it. I think one of the things, I think Calvin said it as well. Looking back, the game management. I think if it's 1-0 to Tottenham and they're on the ropes at home, these big players know how to dive and know how to time waste and know how to con the referee, and they were very good at that yesterday, by the way. They know how to game manage better than we do, and that's again down to the youngsters. Like they're not been in that situation before, but as a fan, I could just see it. We were just doing a few too many things that you didn't need to do at 1-0, like playing out and stuff. And yeah, I could just slowly see it slipping away. I'm sick of conceding deflected goals because every time we played Wolves, we conceded a deflected goal. I think I'm missing a game, but there's definitely been a couple more this season where there've been deflected goals. And I don't mind getting beat by Still. If Harry Kane had an absolute stormer and he scores a hat-trick and he puts them all in top bins, fair enough. But Calvin left North London with him in his back pocket. I'm not hearing it any different, even though they won. But when it's down to deflected goals and stuff, and maybe a bit of a silly mistake from, I haven't watched it back, but a silly mistake for the first goal, it does grind your gears a bit. But on the other hand, you've got to just put it behind you and think Brighton next Saturday at R5 is the game that we need to be winning or getting something out of. This yesterday was just a bonus. And like I said, the game against Brentford at home the week after, and games against Palace and Villa, they're the ones he's targeting, not Tottenham. But first half performance, no complaints. Second half, just lost it, fizzled out a bit for us.
Yeah, well, Rob, we've covered all of the Premier League games now. Now we're going to ask you for your Premier League team and player of the week, please.
Premier League team. I don't know. About Premier League teams.
Not as in 1 to 11,
Chelsea.
as in best team of the weekend.
Probably Chelsea because of the 3-0 convincing win against Leicester. Like I said, it might just me. I don't like the early kickoffs, and I think sometimes it can make it difficult. And they have players out. They're still missing Lukaku, and they're replacing it with N'Golo Kante scoring the goals, Chilwell, James. And I don't like to pick Chelsea because what was the other thing you asked?
Oh, sorry, yeah, player of the week. Sorry, the internet went a bit funny then. Player of the week as well, please.
Player of the week. It would probably be someone from that game. I was impressed by Reece James because he looked. I liked it because he did what he does for Chelsea for England, and it annoys me when you see him not doing that. So he was doing what he did for England and what he was doing before the international break, and I don't think that's always as easy as it's made to look by continuing with a bit of momentum and stuff. So someone like that, Kante for scoring. But then maybe, I don't know, someone from the Liverpool game because they won convincingly, didn't they? Jota for that goal. So yeah, Jota or James for me.
Excellent. Well, that's all we've got time for on the Premier League weekend review for this match day. Thank you very much for joining me, Rob, and I hope you enjoyed the show, everyone, and I'll see you all soon.